Good afternoon. This is Stacy Purser, criminal trial and appeal lawyer with Purser Law, coming to you from the beautiful Manulife Place in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm here today to give you my top 3 tips or things to consider when hiring a criminal lawyer. Being charged with a crime can be one of the most stressful events that someone goes through in their life, and often it can take years to go through that process. So it's really important that you find a lawyer right off the bat that you're able to work with and can maintain that relationship with for a period of several years if need be. So there's 3 main things that I would suggest that you consider when hiring a criminal lawyer, and let's get into those. So number 3. Rely on reviews and results, not rankings. Now, what do I mean by rankings? You see a lot of those, top 3 dentists in Edmonton, or top 3 or best in, and top 5 this and that websites around purporting to be able to rank the best professionals in each field. And the problem with some of these websites is that they're run by third parties who aren't necessarily lawyers or doctors or in the profession that they purport to be ranking. And they're also not very transparent as to how they are ranking these individuals or what metrics they're using to come up with these rankings. So while some of them can be fairly accurate, listing what appear, at least in my view, to be some of the best in the field, other websites are not so accurate. It's also unclear how often they update these results. So what I recommend is that you look at reviews for law firms that have been around for a little bit longer. I would suggest looking at Google reviews. And for newer law firms such as mine, I would suggest looking at results. So on my webpage, I have a notable cases page where it shows some of the highlights of my career over the last several years, some of the cases that I have actually litigated, and some of the results that I've achieved for real clients like yourself. So again, with the reviews, be careful that you're not going to third-party websites. I would personally stick to the Google reviews. I know just from my experience, looking at even Google reviews for things other than lawyers, I find them to be quite accurate. And I know working at my old law firm, I did find that those were accurate as well. We were able to identify basically every Google review as a legitimate client. So those would be something that I would recommend having a good look at. So that's my number 3 tip. Look at reviews and results, not rankings. Number 2, pick a lawyer that you can afford and be realistic about your price points. Do not pick a lawyer that you cannot afford. You will not necessarily get a better result, and often it will simply set you back. So there's 2 dangers to picking a lawyer that you can't afford. First is the danger that you won't be able to keep up with their trial fees, and that lawyer will bring an application to the court to be removed as your counsel. Essentially, that is the lawyer firing you for non-payment of fees. In that case, you will generally lose the retainer that you paid, and you'll be left having to explain to your next lawyer your case all over again. So it ends up being a waste of your time and your hard-earned money. So it's really important that you're realistic and upfront with yourself about what you can afford right off the bat, so you can stick with the lawyer for the entire duration of your matter, and you're not throwing money away on lawyers who won't ultimately end up running your trial. The other danger that can occur if you try and hire a lawyer that you can't afford is I've seen individuals avoid their lawyers because they don't want to broach the topic of fees. And if that lawyer doesn't apply to get off the record, what ends up happening is you show up for trial completely unprepared to testify, and it ends up being a bigger disaster than it really should be, and then you end up coming to me for an appeal. It's really hard to undo convictions once they've been entered, so it's really important that you find a lawyer that you can work with, that you can afford, that you're not going to be avoiding, so that you're adequately prepared for trial. So that's my number 2 tip. Be realistic about what you can afford in terms of a lawyer. My number 1 tip for hiring a criminal lawyer is to choose a lawyer who practices in the area that you need help in. So if you have a family court matter, hire a family lawyer. If you have a criminal matter, hire a criminal lawyer. This seems simple, but again, occasionally I see people come to me for an appeal where they've hired, their family friend lawyer who doesn't really do criminal law and has missed some really obvious things that they could have done to assist you in trial. If you can find someone who has experience in your type of case, even better. Even within the broad umbrella of criminal lawyers, there are some lawyers who have more experience doing murders, more experience doing frauds. I, for example, do not do impaired driving law, so if you call me for that, I'm going to refer you to someone else. But if you can find a lawyer who is even more experienced in the area of law that you actually need, even better. So my number one tip for finding a criminal lawyer is if you have a criminal matter, hire a criminal lawyer. As a bonus tip, if you are looking for an appeal lawyer, make sure you hire an appeal lawyer who is not from the same firm as your trial lawyer. So lawyers can be very collaborative, and this is a positive thing, but you want your appeal lawyer to be able to look at your case with a fresh eye. And if your appeal lawyer is from the same firm as your trial lawyer, they will have heard about the trial as it was going on. They will have already formed an opinion about the evidence, and simply put, they won't be able to look at your case with a fresh eye. So make sure if you're hiring an appeal lawyer that your appeal lawyer is not from the same firm as your trial lawyer. So those are my top 3 tips plus a bonus tip for appeals. I really hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to call me for a free 30-minute consultation. Have a good night. Bye.